Interrogation, yeah. Are we all alright? He's just come in today? Yes.
Vigo's joining us from Skype.
Is he?
He wants to know your message.
Yeah. He's not.
You can cut him off if you don't like him.
He's not, is he? He's not really. Is he joining us from Skype? Good, yeah.
I can get him on the phone.
No, please don't.
A few minutes, boys, pick up.
Yeah. Can we ask fitness-wise? Obviously, Craig went home, didn't link up with you. Johnny didn't play again at the weekend. How is he looking?
Yeah, I mean, Craig was a big blow to us. Obviously, we knew that there was always risk attached to it because he hadn't played. He'd played about 3 weeks previously, or maybe 4 weeks previously in pre-season, and then hadn't played. He'd been training for a week, and he felt quite good. He was optimistic, but obviously when he went on the pitch, that wasn't the case. And I think it was 17 minutes he lasted in terms of coming on the 20th minute and going off shortly after half time. So it was a big blow to lose Craig, really was. Particularly obviously on the back of Gareth as well. And Johnny's situation, as I think he's been careful with his. He hasn't played yet in the 3 games for West Brom, but he trained yesterday and today, and he's not felt any reaction to that. So we're optimistic that he'll be fine for Friday night.
The club situation is obviously still ongoing. The deadline's tomorrow. I mean, we've looked at people like Coutinho, and they've said the Brazil doctor said is whether injuries stress related. But Johnny doesn't strike me as the type of guy that would be affected by anything either way, and mentally going into Friday you'd be fine with playing and whatever happens.
Yeah, whatever happens, Johnny will be ready to play on Friday night. I've no doubts about that. It's it's a difficult situation for any player. It's a difficult situation for myself, the manager, and all international managers, I'm sure. When you think that even the window shuts tomorrow night, but there's actually some games tomorrow night as well. I don't know how that's going to work for any players that are possibly involved. But yeah, I mean, our job is just to focus on ourselves and to facilitate in any way. Should a club agree terms, or should a transfer come to fruition, that we facilitate it in the best way possible, but also that the club do it in such a way which is the least disruptive to ourselves. That's all we can ask. But equally, we're not in a position to turn around to a player and say he can't leave or he can't do that. It's his career, obviously, that's at stake. So, as I say, we don't envisage if something does happen between now and midnight tomorrow night. I think we're fairly confident that it won't disrupt us too much.
And in terms of defensive options, obviously we always marvel about Aaron Hughes' fitness. Do you think if needed he could play 2 90-minute games within that short space?
Well, I hope so. If needed, yeah. We don't, when you look beyond Aaron and Johnny, you're going into very inexperienced players at this level, and Tom got 1 cap, and I think Adam has 1 cap from a number of years back, possibly going back. So we would have to, if we didn't go there, and our options are very, very limited. Other than that, but yeah, I mean, Aaron's fitness is fine. He hasn't played the last 3 weeks for Hearts, but that's more tactical than anything else. They've gone from a back 3 to a back 4, and he's the one that's missed out. But look, you're always concerned when you've got our team from looking very strong in that area of the pitch suddenly looks a little bit fragile. There's no doubt about that. But we just have to make sure that we get through Friday night, and obviously hopefully the players come through unscathed and we're ready to play on Monday.
Stuart Dallas signed you did Adam Thompson away to Bradford?
Yeah, Adam Thompson's gone on loan to Bradford, which was done again. We just facilitated. The clubs had contacted me and they came here. It's a paperwork exercise. That Stuart's is pretty much the same, but I just felt it was the right thing for a player. If you've to get it done, to have the paperwork done, and to be going on, playing Friday night with nothing on your mind other than that. Players always go onto the pitch with, if something like that's hanging over you, and the back of your mind, you always fear something could happen to you, and injury wise. So I think it was important that was all resolved. And as I say, 90, the squad are all in a good place. It's an uncertain time for all of them, particularly possibly the ones who aren't playing in their first teams, because the ones who haven't started the season, they're maybe getting a feel for where they're going to, how the season's going to be for them. They're possibly looking at other opportunities. They possibly want other opportunities, whether that's permanent or temporary. And we just have to try and facilitate that.
Michael, what would be the situation with Johnny tomorrow? Would you be able to stay in Manchester and join you later on in the day, or would you say that you'd have
Well, it's,
try out maybe
I mean,
following.
my understanding, like until anything is agreed, whether it be with obviously Manchester City or Arsenal or Leicester, all the clubs that have been mentioned, there's nothing to say that another club won't come into the equation late in the day. So, you know, until that situation arises, we really can't put a sort of process in place, to be honest. You know, our sort of intention is that unless something changes dramatically between now and when we depart tomorrow morning, that, you know, the party as is with the 25 players, 26 players rather, and Johnny will be part of that. But you know, it is something that, as I say, if something extreme happened and we had to try and facilitate that, then we would have to look at that.
I guess from your point of view, it'd be nice if it was just done tonight.
It would be great if it had been done last week, or if it was wherever it's going to be done, or wherever it's going to be. Of course it is, but you know, the clubs are the clubs aren't doing it, and rightly so. They're not doing it intentionally to make it more difficult for us. You know, they have to do their own business out with the consideration of international. It's made their job probably harder, because if you look at it, players are all over the world now, and that certainly can't make it any easier for the clubs to do it. But you know, I think that obviously the technology and the resource that these clubs have mean that it's possible to do it, even if you know, the player's not in the vicinity at that minute in time.
There's been a lot of talk club-wise about the transfer window going back to before the season. I guess for international managers as well, you don't want it falling within this break.
Well, yeah. Look, I don't really have an opinion on whether it should go back or not. I have an opinion when it clashes with an international. So, for example, had we been playing tomorrow, which was feasible that we could have been playing, I think we play Germany on the Thursday, for example. So that gives you an indication of just how the fixtures fall. You know, maybe it's something that, you know, maybe FIFA need to look at in terms of when they schedule the first. Is it possible to schedule this international a week down the line when the window's shut? Possibly that's something that maybe needs to be considered just from a practical point of view. But as I say, you know, I don't have any real opinion on it from the point of view of clubs, because it's not something that I'm involved in.
Just completely off that, can I ask a wee bit about Bailey? We don't know too much about him. What's his story? Or
Well, he's one of those that we dug up. We do a lot of digging. We don't tell you where we're digging. That's the key. It's like having a metal detector, and you find something, you don't tell anyone what you found. And like, he's a young goalkeeper that we've known about, and it's just been a process that we go through. You know, that with you know, Andy Cousins, who's our head of recruitment, in terms of, you know, when we find a player like this, it's important that the player's in his right mind to come in. So Bailey's one that's been ongoing. It's not just we've just plucked him out of thin air. We've probably been at this for about 18 months. He trained with us in the lead up to the Azerbaijan game here in Manchester as part with one or two of our other young goalkeepers. And, you know, he's obviously a goalkeeper with eligibility for ourselves. Don't ask me exactly what that is in terms of the bloodline. I think it's possibly his grandfather. You know, we're looking at a young keeper who, you know, obviously sees a real opportunity with Northern Ireland, and it's good to have him. And he's impressed any time he's been in. He's a really nice young lad. He's a very good goalkeeper, albeit he's still a kid. And we've got two other good young kids in our under-21s as well, but it's nice to have him in the squad and to see him with the senior players, because, as I say, you know, you constantly have to try to evolve your squad, and that's what we're trying to do. We don't have a raft of players to do that, but there's one or two other ones that we've worked hard on that hopefully we may see in coming months as well. And it's nice that players obviously think that Northern Ireland is a good option for them at international level, and you know, Bailey's one that we're quite excited about.
How pleasing with the under-21s win last time? Obviously, as a senior manager, to see these young players doing well.
It's very good, you know, because too often our under-21s, the results have been just you know, defeat after defeat without any real I suppose signs of development, albeit as a team. Sometimes you see developments individually, but I think it's been good. It was a good start for Ian Barraclough, which I think is important. He plays, I think, Albania now coming this week, and so I said to him, he's a win away from possibly being our greatest ever under-21 manager. So that's an accolade that he will take gladly. But yeah, I mean, it's very difficult for us at under-21 level, because we're not. if you look at the squad of players, you know, the highest that anyone is playing, I think, is League One, is Cameron Dummigan at Oldham. You know, we've some other lads who are playing League Two football, but we've a lot of lads who aren't playing. You know, they're not first team players yet, so it's a big jump, and you know, there's very little we can do about that. So, but we do cherish all of those players. We need those players to come through in some form, you know. And I always go back to, you know, the second game, or the first time I went and watched the under-21s, which was over 5 years ago. In Macedonia, they were beaten 1-0. Stephen Robinson was in charge, and that team didn't win a game of any note. But over, I think, 9 of those players have come through to play senior international level. So we haven't had that sort of return in terms of players coming through. Subsequently, you know, we've had McNair come through, but Paddy even bypassed, in all honesty, 21s level. So we do need some of those players to establish themselves more at their clubs and to give us an option. We're constantly hoping that we have young players playing, and it's just not the case. But it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge for Ian, but I think he's done very well in the short space of time he's been in, and we're just hoping that we can develop more players to give us more options.
Now that Paul Smith's deal is done, must be very pleasing that, you know, one of the exciting talents in the Irish League has got another chance.
Yeah, Paul, I'm delighted for Paul, because he's a good kid, and we brought him with us to France, and we've brought him in subsequently, and he does fit it in. You know, he's got good attributes. I think he might surprise a few people. I think there's always a sort of mentality thing where people think, you know, come in and we'll develop him, we'll put him in a development squad. I think Paul maybe has the capability to surprise a few people and maybe be fast-tracked through that a little bit. You know, that was my own route to professional football, albeit the game has changed from those days. But, you know, he has the attributes. He's already affecting the game at senior level. You know, he's done that for the best part of 18 months to 2 years. So it's good to get a young player into the game at that level for us, and it's good because hopefully when our younger players, and there is more than 1 or 2 of them playing domestically at home, they see that they have a chance at progression. And I'll reiterate the point I've said many times. Paul Smith has been one of the big things that's played a big part in Paul Smith's development in terms of where people view him, is not only what he's done at Linfield, but what he's done playing for the under-21s team. You know, he's played very well for the under-21 team, and I think people notice that as well.
Okay.
Good. Good. See you tomorrow night.